Uh-oh.
Yes, boy!
French toast is the exchange student that you have like a 3-week affair with.
Hey, we can see that you don't have pants on.
Somebody hit somebody with a pie. Do something.
Giovanni yelling we're out of time as we go off the air.
Giovanni yelling a lot of things tonight.
And welcome to the Mark It Down podcast.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Mark It Down podcast. My name is Nick Cummings, riding solo dolo this evening, as I am back here once again to review tonight's episode of AEW Dynamite. This week was Beach Break, even though they held it in the Midwestern city in May, so I don't know what the temperature of the beaches are like there. Technically, they don't have any on the ocean, but Lake Michigan's apparently pretty nice. Anyway, it was, as I said, it was out in Chicago, and good crowd out there, and they got treated to a very chaotic and main event full of anarchy, might we say. So let's dive straight into that, as we saw Jon Moxley face off against Samoa Joe for the AEW World Championship for the first time ever in a steel cage match. I'm going to jump pretty much towards after commercial break here, because during it, Moxley started bleeding, so just drink. You could have just done that before the match even started. We all knew Mox was going to bleed before this match even started. It was in a cage. We also had Claudio Castagnoli and Wheeler Yuta join Marina Shafir at ringside, as Marina had accompanied Moxley out. I will jump towards the end, where after escaping a bulldog choke, Samoa Joe threw Moxley off of the ropes, but Moxley was able to duck Joe's attack and hit a paradigm shift, and Joe was able to kick out of that. Moxley then went back after Joe, and before I even knew what he was going to do, Joe slipped it and got Mox into the coquina clutch. He wasn't able to get the body scissors, but it was enough to cause the members of the Death Riders at ringside to panic, as Claudio and Wheeler both went to opposite sides of the cage and started to scale it. However, Willow Nightingale and Powerhouse Hobbs came down to neutralize them, with Willow pulling Claudio off onto both herself and Marina, and Hobbs shaking the cage, knocking Wheeler off, and then he tried to escape through the crowd, but Hobbs quickly caught him and slammed him through a table in the timekeeper's area. Wheeler got his ass whipped tonight. Shout out to him, honestly. Meanwhile, back in the cage, Joe was admiring Hobbs' handiwork, and all of this chaos allowed a hooded figure to sneak up and slip the briefcase, presumably with the AEW World Championship, into the cage, and Moxley took it and nailed Joe in the head with it, pinned him, and kept him down for the 3 counts to retain his AEW World Championship. And then after the match, that hooded figure was revealed to be Gabe Kidd from New Japan Pro Wrestling. Now, I'll get into everything that happened after in a second, because I did want to comment on this match a little bit and not have it get completely lost in the chaos that followed. But it was a solid match. Nothing to write home about steel cage-wise. We've definitely seen some better ones here in AEW, not only on pay-per-view. Obviously, the most recent one was Ospreay versus Fletcher, which was amazing. But I think we've even seen better cage matches from the women on Dynamite. I remember correctly, Thunder Rosa beat, I want to say, Britt Baker in a steel cage match for the title on a St. Patrick's Day episode of Dynamite. And I remember that being phenomenal. And they obviously had a lot more time. This match really didn't have a whole lot. I didn't see when the entrances started, but we were only a few minutes into the match, and it was 9:55 here on the East Coast, which means I didn't think they were going to have a lot of time to go in this match. And if you really look at it just strictly for the match, they kind of didn't get a whole lot of time. A lot of the time allocated towards the segment was dedicated to what happened after. So the match itself was okay. My biggest gripe, and somebody, if anybody's out there, tell me what the hell was going on with this, because it happened twice in this match and 3 times during this episode. We had rope breaks on submissions in no DQ matches. It wasn't just during this match, because we had it twice. Once Joe forced Moxley to the ropes when he was able to, I believe, reverse a figure 4, and referee Paul Turner broke it up. And then later, in a very important part of the match, I believe it was during the Bulldog choke, no, it wasn't the Bulldog choke. Joe had on an STF on Mox. That's what it was. And Moxley made it again to the ropes, and the referee broke it up. This is a no DQ match. There shouldn't be rope breaks. And even if there are, you can't DQ the wrestler for continuing to apply the hold. There's a 5-second count in a DQ match. So that was super weird. It also happened in the women's 4-way match, which we'll get to later. So I forgot who had the submission on whom, but yeah, there was a rope break in a 4-way match, which I also believe is no DQ last time I checked. And we got it 3 times during no DQ matches. And it's just super weird during a steel cage. Don't know why it happened that way. I thought it was dumb in all 3 instances. And I don't want to say it took away from my enjoyment for the match, because I enjoyed the match. It was fine. It was enjoyable, but just so weird that it ended up happening that at all, to be honest. So hopefully they can get a little more, figured out on what the rules are going to be during these matches, because very, very strange that we had rope breaks during a steel cage match. All right, but let's head to what happened after, because it was a little bit more important. After we had the reveal of Gabe Kidd, he was kind of backpedaling up the ramp. And when Hobbs finally saw him, Hobbs started stalking him down until Claudio came up from behind Hobbs and hit him in the back with a chair. However, Hobbs no-sold it, but when he turned around, Kidd quickly came down and hit a low blow onto Hobbs, and Claudio followed that up with another chair shot to keep him down. Willow was then thrown into the barricade by Marina Shafir, and I believe Wheeler Yuta joined in on that as well. As we say hi to Maria. What's going on, Maria? Riding solo tonight. Thank you for joining me. Appreciate it a lot. And after Willow and Hobbs were taken out, we then had the music for the Young Bucks hit, and Nicholas and Matthew came down to the ring. Nicholas went over to Moxley, who was joined by Kidd at this point, who had kind of filled Moxley on everything that was going on and attempted to get him to come too. And Mox had finally stood up, covered in his own blood. And it appeared he was thinking about shaking Nicholas's hand. However, he is interrupted by the music of Kenny Omega, and Kenny came out and ducked a wild shot from Claudio to hit a running knee onto Wheeler. He then turned around and took Claudio out before heading towards the ring and attempting to goad someone out of the ring instead of going into the Lion's Den. However, he is attacked by Kazuchika Okada from behind, who came in and punched him right in the gut, in the surgically repaired gut. And, obviously still have to sell the diverticulitis. And Okada threw Kenny into the ring, laughing as he did so. Jackson then pulled out the controls for the steel cage and began to lower it. And they were joined in the ring by Claudio, and who also had to physically throw Wheeler into the ring while locking out Hobbs and Willow, and also Okada, who decided to stay on the outside. That turned out to be a bit of a mistake for him, as he was attacked from behind by Speedball Mike Bailey, and the two of them fought into the back while everything was going on in the cage. Inside the cage, it was like an 8-on-2, as Joe and Kenny were just absolutely destroyed by the Bucks, by Gabe Kidd, and by the Death Riders. Both of them being finished off. Joe took a EVP trigger, and Kenny took a Death Rider. At this point, Swerve Strickland was in the back, and he had seen enough, and his music hit, and he came out, scaled the cage, and dove off of the top of the cage onto the Elite Riders. That's what I'm going with, the Elite Riders, taking out pretty much everyone except for Matthew Jackson. Matthew was then grabbing the controls for the cage and desperately trying to get it to raise, and he was finally able to do so. And he and the rest of the Elite Riders then quickly retreated, whether it was into the crowd or elsewhere. Swerve then grabbed the mic, and he was joined by Willow, Hobbs, Kenny, and Joe as they all started to come to in the ring. And Swerve says that the last time he was in a cage, in Chicago. He got his brains beat in by a chair and dropped on a cinder block. And you would think he would stay away at this point, but his sadistic mind would not let him, and he came back out here anyway. And he says, you'd think he would be afraid, but he has instead realized that he is the fear. And he's also realized that not only he, but the gentleman and lady in the ring with him want to cause some anarchy. And he calls out the Death Riders and the Bucks for an anarchy in the arena match at Double or Nothing. This was the definition of chaos. It felt a little NWO-ish at the end, where, everyone just coming out, crazy beatdown, but then we got the big save at the end, kind of, by Sting, aka Swerve in this instance, and the crazy long overrun. So we had all of that. Bad guys kind of won in this instance. Kenny and Joe were taken out. Obviously, Moxley was able to retain his title. So that part kind of sucked. But Swerve came in, looked like an absolute fucking superhero, taking everyone out, diving off the cage. And now we have a very, very interesting anarchy in the arena, because there are a lot of people who can be in this match. We had in the ring Swerve, Kenny, Joe, Hobbs, and Willow, along with Prince Nana. And then on the other side of things, we have Moxley, we have Claudio, we have Wheeler, we have both Young Bucks, and we have Marina Shafir. So that's right now is a 6-on-5 in my book. I'm curious to see how they end up playing this out in terms of what the teams are. I'm wondering, obviously, Shibata will probably end up coming back. It'll be Shibata or Hook, I would imagine, would be the sixth person on the other side. If they want to go 6-on-6, I think that works in this instance. Fine. You might as well just put everybody on teams. Like, they're all going to get involved anyway. Just put them on the teams. So if you want to go 6-on-6, it'll be Shibata or Hook. My guess would be Shibata. We still haven't really had an update from Hook as far as I've seen. But Shibata making his return makes a whole lot of sense, probably next week. And then we have even teams. But my bigger thing is that, at least for the Anarchy in the Arena part, we're most likely going to get women on the teams. It looks like Willow and Marina will be on the teams, or at least I think they should be. Again, they're going to get involved. Just add them to the teams. Let them fight the entire time. You actually get Marina in a match. It allows Willow to be Willow to be one of the first two women in an Anarchy in the Arena match, which I think would be really cool and an accolade she definitely deserves. So, don't beat around the bush with it. Don't be like, Shafir is going to get involved, and then here comes Willow halfway through. No, just put them in the damn match. It'll be way cooler. It'll eliminate any and all shenanigans, and then people can hit each other. And I'm sure Willow pouncing Wheeler Yuta is going to get a huge pop. So we might as well have it, right? We might as well. Back in the comments here, Maria saying it was a crazy ending. Fernando also calling Dynamite fire and very excited about the Anarchy in the Arena match. Maria also saying that this is going to be one of the most star-studded Anarchy in the Arena matches ever. And I do think that's true, mostly because I do think that most of them were factions for the most part, and not really alliances by convenience, as what this is a little bit more of, because you have kind of two factions on one side with the Death Riders and the Elite, and then on the other side you have Swerve and Kenny, who are kind of loners, although they've been cool lately. We've seen the fist bumps with them, and then they're also just happening to be on the same side as the Ops and Swerve and Hobbs and Shibata. So, and Willow obviously just hates the Death Riders. So it actually works out. There's a lot of stars in this. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think smart to do with this one. Mox just defended the title. It allows him to not defend, assuming he is in this match, which I think he will be. It allows him to not defend and gives him another pay-per-view before we get to Double or Nothing, without having to defend, even though he did tonight. So I think that works out really, really well with him in it. I also wanted to double back, and Maria's saying the debut of Gabe Kidd was really cool. I agree. I don't know if this is his AEW. I think he was at Forbidden Door, at least one of them, and I'm trying to remember if he popped up at a Dynamite before that Forbidden Door. But this was a big reveal. It being Gabe Kidd and not somebody else. A lot of people were speculating maybe Jack Perry made his return this evening and maybe joined the Death Riders. I saw my idea was that he was basically on loan from the Bucks after their discussion last week, and I thought that could be a way to do that. But no, instead they go to New Japan to get Gabe Kidd involved, and who knows who that was at the behest of? Whether was it the Bucks calling in a favor? Was it Moxley? Did Kidd just want to get involved because he doesn't like Kenny? Like, who knows? I think that's going to be a really big thing that's going to that we really want the answers to. So I'm excited to see how that goes. You did kind of hear Kidd yelling at Moxley to take the briefcase when he was doing so, and it almost sounded to me he was, hey, I was sent by and whoever, and I'm guessing he was saying I was sent by the Bucks, take the briefcase, win. I'm sure, I need like John Boy to help me out with the lip reading there. But if it is the Bucks, I think that is a brilliant strategy by them, both in kayfabe and booking wise, to be like, hey, look, we wanted to help you out, Moxley, and we went out and got one of not only the best wrestlers we could find that we have an alliance with, but one of the most vicious as well, as we saw how vicious he could get in his match with Kenny at Wrestle Kingdom earlier this year. So, was that Wrestle Dynasty? No, it was Wrestle Dynasty, excuse me. But either way, I love it. I love that he's there. I wonder if he's involved in Anarchy in the Arena. That's another person on the sides of the heels in this instance, roster-wise, which could make it a little more difficult. Just at a certain point, it's a numbers game. But I think it could work. I mean, you could always go, Mox, Claudio, and then Kidd, and then the Bucks, and then Shafir. Because again, I know maybe I'm forcing the women into this. I want them to be an official part of it. I don't just want them to be not on the side, but like just joining into the fray. And obviously, that instance, then Wheeler just kind of ends up joining in the fray and doing it anyway. But I guess you got to give the heels a little bit of an advantage to make them the bad guys. So I'm sure a lot of this will be sorted out in the next 3 or so episodes of AEW before we get, 3 episodes until we get to Double or Nothing in a couple of Sundays from now. But I color me intrigued with all of this going on right here. And Anarchy in arenas are always awesome. So super excited to have another one. Super excited about the potential participants, and super excited to see where all of this is going as we get closer to Double or not only Double or Nothing, but to All In as well. All right, let's head back up to the start of the show. As my thing refuses to scroll. There we go. As we saw Will Ospreay team up with his Double or Nothing opponent, Hangman Adam Page, to face off against Konosuke Takeshita and Josh Alexander of the Don Callis family, and a match that was put together last week after Will, much to the chagrin and apparent annoyance of Hangman, challenged the Don Callis family to a match this week. We saw a little bit of tension in the beginning between Hanger and Ospreay, but they seemed to get on the same page as things started to move along. Mostly, obviously, just because they wanted to beat Don, because Don sucks. But towards the end of the match, we had Ospreay up in an electric chair on top of Alexander, and Takeshita was climbing up to the top rope. However, Hangman was able to grab Takeshita's leg and distract things long enough for Will to hit a poison rana onto Alexander. He then hit an Os cutter onto Takeshita, and then again he hit one on Alexander, but Alexander kicked out of it, and Ospreay went into his corner to line up for the hidden blade. However, by this point, Hangman had come around to the corner and tagged himself in as Ospreay was lining up. So Ospreay gets upset, and he starts walking out of the corner and decides not to hit the hidden blade. And Hanger's like, what are you doing? Hit it. I'll follow up. and will win. And Ospreay seems annoyed at the fact that Hangman tagged himself in, thinking Hanger just wanted the glory for himself. And then Hangman realizes Takeshita is getting up on the apron, so he starts yelling at Ospreay, like, go get Takeshita, he's coming up. So Ospreay goes over there and knocks Takeshita off of the ropes, off of the apron with the big boot. And then as he's doing so, Hangman goes to the buckshot lariat. However, Alexander is able to duck it, and Hangman almost hits Ospreay with the buckshot. The two stare each other down, but Hangman realizes Takeshita is stirring on the outside again, so Hanger jumps out and starts to go after him. Meanwhile, Ospreay turns his attention back to Alexander and goes after him, gets him back down, and lines up this time for the hidden blade, but Alexander again ducks, and Ospreay comes within centimeters of hitting Hangman with the hidden blade as he had gotten back in the ring after taking out Takeshita. And they had a great shot where Ospreay's forearm and elbow were like here, like right here. And Hangman and Ospreay were just looking at each other, both furious and shocked and very distrusting. It was a great camera angle, and they sold it so well. However, as they stared each other down, Alexander was able to take advantage, and he came over, knocked Ospreay to the floor before knocking Hangman to the apron. However, Hangman hits a big boot, and then Ospreay follows that up with a back kick, and the two men combine to hit a buckshot lariat, hidden blade finisher to just completely decapitate Alexander to the point where his headgear came off. And I believe Hangman, being the legal man, pinned Alexander for the win. After the match, Ospreay and Page both had their haze rans by referee, I believe it was Ray Spremsberg, as they just stared each other down, and then they both kept their hands raised as they continued to stare at each other until Takeshita came in from behind and hit a jumping knee strike on Hangman, pushing him into Ospreay. Alexander then jumped back in, and the two men proceeded with the beatdown until Ospreay was able to fight back and knock both Don Callis family members out of the ring. However, Hangman came to at this point, and he went and put his hand on Ospreay's shoulder. And Ospreay, presumably thinking it was Alexander, as I explained on commentary, that was the last place he saw Josh, turned around and laid in a right to Hangman, and this obviously pissed Hangman off, and the two men got in each other's faces until Remsburg was able to separate them and keep them from beginning to throw blows at each other, saying that they will fight at Double or Nothing and they should hold off till then. But this was a very good match, great way to start the show. The will they, won't they, the tension, or can they coexist tension in this tag match, I thought was done very well. Obviously, it was a very old trope going into this, but when done well, the tropes could work. There's a reason they become tropes. And I thought the acting in this match was very, very good. And I know that's something maybe you don't always say, but it really helped tell the story of the distrust between these two men, despite the fact they kind of know each other as a decent guy. They are both so competitive that they not only wanted to take out Dom, but they don't trust each other heading into their match at Double or Nothing. So it led to, as Maria said, an excellent match, both in the ring in terms of the physical moves and stuff, and the storytelling of it all, leading to what, again, stealing from Maria here, Maria says going to be an amazing match at Double or Nothing. Maria also bringing up another good point. She's carrying the show tonight, folks. Saying WWE ran the "can they coexist" trope into the ground, and that is very, very true. And look, everyone's going to do it. Like, every big promotion's going to do it. It's a good way to tell the story and have these guys on the card before, a big pay-per-view or something, and get them both wins without having to, necessarily pin too much talent. I don't want to say bury. That's a bad word there. But so it worked in this instance. You're right. They used it too much in WWE, and they probably continue to use it too much. I don't watch the programming as much as I used to, at least full time. Here in AEW, they use it sometimes. They don't use it a crazy amount, but this is the perfect instance to use it, I thought. And they played it perfectly. So shouts to everybody here. And, first time, too, that Alexander and Takeshita have lost since tagging together. They even had, I believe it was Will, kick out of the ripcord double forearm that they had won their previous matches with. So, had to make them look strong, and they did. And it led, just like I said, led to a really great match to start the show here in Chicago at Beach Break. After this match, they had a quick promo package for the main event, and then we went backstage for an interview with Top Flight, where Alicia attempted to ask them about what happened last week when MJF attacked both men in an attempt to press the Hurt Syndicate. However, Dante interrupts her, screaming that MJF made a huge mistake by sticking his nose in their business. Darius then steps in a bit calmer, although he echoes that Max made a mistake. However, tonight is about business in the ring, and they want the tag team championships, even if the Hurt Syndicate is going to underestimate them. Dustin Rhodes and Sammy Guevara then come over, with Dustin telling Top Flight that they should use the fact that they're being underestimated as fuel, and notes that they will be watching their match very closely. So that just sets up for that match later. After this, we had Ricochet versus Zach Gowen. I do believe I spelled Zach wrong, so let me fix that. My apologies, Zach. This was an interesting match. For those of you who don't know, Zach Gowen is the one-legged wrestler. I believe he was on WWE television back in the day. I think he's the guy Brock Lesnar just tossed around that one time. But this all started last week on Collision, and of course, the one time I haven't watched Collision in the last few weeks, a lot of stuff happened. But Zach was at ringside watching the show. The show was in Detroit. He's from there. He was a guest of AEW, and Ricochet apparently was messing with security guards, and Gowen had enough, and he got into the ring, and then Ricochet basically kicked off his prosthetic leg and stole it. So that led to this match here tonight. Maria's saying she doesn't understand why this match took place. That's why. Because Ricochet is an asshole. And honestly, it was to make Ricochet look more like an asshole, as, he was picking on this guy, But let's be realistic here. Zach can hold his own. But Ricochet did come down to the ring with the prosthetic leg, which was just great. Say what you will about Ricochet. Say what you will about this match, but he is so good at getting heat lately. And I know we keep saying this over and over and over again, but Ricochet has truly come into his own as a character in AEW. Obviously, the wrestling has always been there, but his character work, I guess, outside of Prince Puma, has really kind of left something to be desired. And this just, I don't even, he's a douchebag, but whatever you want to call it, this cocky douchebag character, it's worked great for him. So I think just added to that. Anyway, to jump towards the end of this match, Gowen was able to kick out of consecutively a 450 and then a shooting star press, and then a vertigo from Ricochet. And that frustrated Ricochet to the point where he went out of the ring to grab his golden scissors. However, when he went to bring them back into the ring, Rick Knox, the referee, caught him and took the scissors from Ricochet despite all of his protests. And then when Knox went to give the scissors to somebody at ringside, Gowen grabbed his prosthetic leg and hit Ricochet in the head with it, threw it away, and pinned him, but Ricochet was able to kick out of that. Gowen then went to the top and attempted to hit a moonsault, which is his big move, but there was no water in the pool as Ricochet avoided it, and then Ricochet hit the Spirit Gun for the win. After the match, Ricochet hit another Spirit Gun and continued his assault with a huge kick before Mark Briscoe came down to make the save. And then as he was leaving, Ricochet again tried to steal the prosthetic leg, but Briscoe prevented him from doing so. This was a weird match for me personally. I was actually kind of hoping James was here tonight. Unfortunately, he was unable to be, just because this is my first experience watching Gowen on wrestle ever. And it's obviously a much different match. His style only lends itself to a certain way. And it was the first time I was experiencing it. I thought it was still pretty cool, though. I thought they made him look pretty damn resilient against Ricochet, considering how high in high regard they hold Ricochet in terms of the power rankings on the AEW card. And I don't know the last time Gowen was in a ring, but I thought he looked really, really good tonight. And he, like I said, he kicked out of a 450, a shooting star press, and a vertigo. So they made him look pretty damn good. So this match, it was new to me because it was so unique, and I don't want to say anything bad about it because I don't think it was a bad match. I'm just having trouble articulating how I truly feel about it just because I'm so unused to a match like this. Still, I thought it was cool for what it was. I thought it was good for what it was. And, Ricochet just being this level of douchebag is funny to me. It really is. Plus, I thought, you kind of get to build a little bit with if they want to go in the direction with Briscoe. I don't know when or where that match would take place. Maybe that's something they do with Double or Nothing. Maybe they do it on Collision, or maybe they do it Dynamite next week. I don't know, but it seems like that's something that will be coming down the pipeline sooner than later. Okay, after that, we went backstage for another interview, this time with MJF. Renee asks him how he'll feel if he gets a yes from the Hurt Syndicate. And after mockingly saying that's the first intelligent question Renee has ever asked, Max says that he was champion for 400 plus days and he wants that back. But the landscape of AEW has changed, with All Elite meaning more now than ever. However, anyone who knows him knows that he doesn't like to work hard and wrestles only when he has to, and he wants to eliminate as many variables as possible when he does so that he can all but assure the outcome being his victory. And becoming part of the four-headed monster that would be himself, my man Shelton Benjamin, MVP, and yes, even Bob would all but guarantee he becomes a two-time champion. MJF then thanks Renee for her time and goes to leave, but Renee stops him, asking Max what he thinks might happen if the Hurt Syndicate says no. And MJF's face drops. His expression completely changes, and he starts realizing what would happen if they do indeed say no, leading to what is basically a state of panic, as he's clearly not thought about this. However, before he can say anything, he is joined by MVP, followed quickly by Lashley and Benjamin. MVP then tells Max it is imperative that he join them in the ring after their match tonight, and then the Syndicate head out there, leaving MJF in a state of panic. And this was funny in and of itself, but what it led to after this match was just as funny. So I'll talk a little bit about it more in a minute as we head into the Hurt Syndicate's match against Top Flight. I believe it was for the AEW World Tag Team Championships. They didn't really make a big deal about that because, honestly, this match was over pretty quickly. I forgot to type World Tag Team Championships. Give me a second, people. Tag Team Championship match. Okay. So, as I was saying, this match was over pretty damn quickly. I barely even got to take notes on it because of how quick it was. I will say this. Dante Martin bumped his ass off in this. He got caught by Bobby Lashley as I was doing a tope and thrown into the ring post. And then at the end of the match, he got a hot tag and tried to springboard into the ring, and Shelton just picked him out of midair with, I think, a drop kick and knocked him off the apron. Dante then got thrown back into the ring, tossed around like a lag doll, and it culminated with Bobby nailing him with a spear and putting in the Hurt Lock. As Bobby has that in, Darius tried to come in and break it up, but he ate a massive thrust kick from Benjamin for his troubles, and Dante was, he passed out, and the Hurt Syndicate retained their titles. After the match, Lashley kept the Hurt Lock applied until Dustin Rhodes and Sammy Guevara came out, with Dustin asking if Bobby thinks that keeping that hold on makes him look like a tough guy, and then says rather it makes him look like an asshole. MVP then grabs a mic and he says, out of respect for his history with Dustin and his respect for Dustin's father, he won't send Shelton and Bobby down to leave Dustin and Sammy in a pool of their own blood, before asking, what do you want? Dustin says that obviously MVP sees all their titles as he and Sammy are the Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions, and Dustin is 1/3 of the Ring of Honor Trios. I know they're not sure. I know it's not the Trios Championships in Ring of Honor, but I'm not remembering what it is. James isn't here. He's not going to yell at me. Anyway, so, MVP sees all that gold around their waist. He knows exactly what they want. However, at this point, Crew then comes out and interrupts. And after threatening Gramps and his little buddy, they say that they took care of Top Flight the same way the Hurt Syndicate just did. And they want a title shot, with Leo referencing his history with Bobby, saying, to do him a favor the same way MVP had just referenced his history with Dustin. Dustin turns around and says that they're not going to cut the line. Instead, he's going to teach them some respect for their elders by beating it into them. And as the brawl seemingly is about to start, MVP stops everything, saying he needs this to end because he has to conduct some business right now. So he suggests that the two teams take this to Collision, where they can have a match and the winner can get a shot at the titles. MVP says then he's only got 30 seconds left, according to a producer, until they head to commercial. So he has everyone to stick around during the break and until after the break, and MJF will finally get his answer. So this whole thing was kind of whatever. It was, I don't want to call it filler, but we were all just kind of waiting until the MJF thing. The match, like I said, was so fast, blink if you miss it type of match. I actually felt a little bad for Top Flight. They usually do better in these scenarios. Like they're not completely buried, but they were just shown to be completely outclassed here by the Hurt Syndicate. Good for them that they got this opportunity. Sucks for them that they kind of got punked the last 2 weeks. MJF last week and then by the Hurt Syndicate this week, but is what it is, I guess. I still think that AEW is pretty high on them because they continue to put them in semi-important positions and continue to put them on TV. So they're still very young. I think they're going to have a long future with the company, and they're doing something right. As for the Sons of Texas and Crew getting involved in their whole promo, it was fine. Nothing to write home about. We're just getting another challenger for the Hurt Syndicate. I don't know if that's going to be a double or nothing, or it's just going to be on Dynamite or Collision. But we'll see how that happens. Maria saying Top Flight deserves better. I would agree. Again, I think it's good that they're continuing to be on TV and in important positions. But they've shown that they have, I think, the skill to win more, and being completely outclassed by the Hurt Syndicate in this instance is unfortunate. We have Logan James joining us here at the pod tonight. What's going on, Logan? Surprised to see Gabe Kidd showing up tonight. Yeah, that was a big surprise. A lot of people thought it was going to be Jack Perry interfering in that main event match, but it turned out to be Gabe Kidd, which again, it really intrigues me for the explanation with that. Hopefully coming up on Collision or next week on Dynamite. Was it Kidd just joining himself? Was it the Bucks making a call? Whatever the scenario might be, hoping it's the latter, I think would be pretty awesome. My man, joining the chat here, asking if this is live or pre-recorded. It's live, my friend. Good to see you as always. James is not here. He had better things to do, like be with his family. So just me tonight. And Maria saying the tag team championship scene is weak at the moment. And I would agree. Your other two biggest tag teams are off doing other things. You have the Bucks, whom we talked about earlier, in the main event scene at the moment, kind of, or at least being around that scene, as you have them trying to get in with the Death Riders. FTR probably being your other biggest tag team. We'll talk about later, but they're currently doing things with Nigel McGuinness and Daniel Garcia mostly on Collision. So you have them doing that. And it's just a matter of, okay, how do you build up credible contenders for a very dominant tag team? And the tag team, I don't think is going to lose. I was going to say, I don't think they're going to lose for a while. So, if you kind of push things out a little bit, who's the next big tag team that could possibly win the titles? It really depends on if my prediction of the Bucks screwing Hangman and then Hangman being forced to team with Swerve at All In, if that prediction comes true, maybe they get a tag title run, but like that seems like such a one-off to me that I don't know if I would want to see it. I mean, it'd be cool. It'd be cool to see them win the tag titles, but it feels to me like that would be more of a one-off. So it really depends. You're right, Maria. They do need to build up some better tag teams, which is crazy considering the fact that I think the tag team division in AEW was the strongest division they had for a very long time. But, you lost the Lucha Brothers. FTR is doing something else. As I said, the Bucks are doing something else. I don't know where Private Party's been recently, but ever since they lost the titles, I think they've pretty much been off TV. You could have built up Gates of Agony, but they already lost to the Hurt Syndicate, so that's out. So I don't know who's next because I kind of agree with Fernando. I'm not really interested in Dusty and Sammy versus the Hurt Syndicate. Like, I'm sure it'll be a good match, but Dustin and Sammy aren't winning. And yeah, if that's the double or nothing match, respectfully, I mean, I'd almost rather them do it the way they used to do it with the tag team matches, where they would have like tag trios matches. That's tough to say. They would have tag trio matches on the pay-per-views all the time. Like, to have somebody interfere in this match on Collision and just make it Crew and Dustin and Sammy and the Hurt Syndicate, just to add a little variety to the match, because I'm not really interested in seeing Crew against the Hurt Syndicate one-on-one either, and maybe it's just because of their size. I don't know, but I think if you throw both teams in that scenario, it makes it a little more intriguing. Not by much, but a little bit more. But then also, again, you're burning two teams at once on the pay-per-view. It goes back to what Maria said. The tag division is weak right now, and they're doing their best to rebuild it, but it's tough at the moment. You know what? Laughing that James bailed out again. Yeah, he was only on, in Japan for God knows how many weeks. Also saying Gabe Kidd's name is Kidd. He would fit perfectly in with Father Cage. I believe Gabe Kidd runs Bullet Club at the moment. This is another instance where James would know better than me. But yeah. And it's saying that's a second-hour TV show matchup. Yeah, exactly. Like whether it's Dustin and Sammy versus Hurt Syndicate or Crew versus Hurt Syndicate, I agree. Yeah, that's like hour 2 of Dynamite, which I think maybe why if you make that the triple threat, it's just intriguing enough where you slide it in the middle of Double or Nothing somewhere. Probably has a little bit of a cool down match. It starts hitting towards the end where you have like the two guys from Crew and Sammy doing some really cool high flying spots. And then you probably have Shelton cut Action Andretti in half and Bobby, take out everybody else and you pin Crew and you move on. Like that seems like a perfectly good mid-card pay-per-view match if they want to do it. Especially just get the tag titles and the Hurt Syndicate onto the pay-per-view. That or they do some sort of trios thing with the Hurt Syndicate and MJF being involved in the match, which I also think works too, which actually kind of gives way to what happened after the commercial. As we came back, MVP announced that it was time for MJF to get what was coming to him and invited him out. But when Max's music hit, Max didn't come out. So MVP decided to send Shelton to the back, and he gets back to Gorilla, and he's like, "Where's MJF?" And Tony Khan just immediately rats him out. And MJF pops over and goes, "Oh, hey, Shelton. I was actually just coming to see you guys." And I love when MJF gets caught, his acting and his voice going up 8 octaves is so funny. So Shelton escorts MJF back to the ring. And when he gets there, MVP tells him it is time for his reckoning. And they once again give their votes. MVP and Shelton again give their thumbs up. But before Bobby votes, he gets MJF, who is basically cowering in the corner, and pulls him out of there, and puts his arm around him. And he starts teasing whether he's going to go thumbs up or thumbs down. And as he's doing so, Shelton starts standing behind him, positioning himself just absolutely kick MJF's head off. However, eventually Bobby gives him the thumbs up, and MJF is voted into the Hurt Syndicate. And he is so happy. He starts running around screaming and jumps into Bobby's arms. And Bobby tosses him back to the mat. And Max is like, I'm sorry. Got a little excited. Okay, we don't do that. My bad. And he's just running around the ring again, chanting, we hurt people, until MVP grabs his arm and raises it and introduces the newest member of the Hurt Syndicate, saying Max's official Hurt Syndicate contract signing will be next week on Dynamite. So this was really funny. It was what we were all kind of waiting for there. And Max got voted in, and it was surprisingly, for such a serious faction, with Fernando saying finally being in this very serious faction. But it was really funny for how serious these guys usually are. Sheldon's a very funny dude, and we've seen it over the last few weeks with his interactions with MJF. And Bobby was a lot funnier in this segment than he's probably been since he's gotten AEW. But we know he can do some funny stuff too. Show me favorite pose and stuff. But and actual funny stuff as well. I thought they played this off great. Max played this so well. Initially freaking out after Renee talked to him earlier, to the point where he was hiding behind Tony Khan, which was great. And eventually being dragged out to the ring, to his absolute elation and exuberation that he was voted into the Syndicate instead of being the cool, calm, collected MJF that he usually is. I haven't seen him this happy since, the double clothesline days with Adam Cole, baby. So it was really funny, and it led to a little bit of stuff later, which I will get to. But obviously, the jump-off point is next week we have the official contract signing for MJF to join the Hurt Syndicate. And that, Maria, is a good point. Do you have Cedric Alexander could appear last minute during the contract signing and the Hurt Syndicate turn on MJF? Now, I don't know how I want to see that go. Just because part of me wants to see MJF and the Hurt Syndicate for at least a little while to see how it all plays out. The other part of me wants Cedric back in it as quickly as possible because I like seeing Cedric on my TV. I like seeing Cedric wrestle. And I like seeing Cedric with the Hurt Syndicate. And these guys all deserve, to have this play out the way they wanted to and have it go out on the terms they wanted to go out on. So I'm a little back and forth on it. I would like a little bit from MJF in the Hurt Syndicate, like legitimately before Cedric comes in. So maybe not necessarily next week, but I think I'll get a little more into that in a bit. Actually, I'll do it now just because it all flows together. So after we had the women's four-way match, which I'll talk about in a second, we came back from commercial and we had a backstage interview with MJF and MVP. Renee asked MJF how he felt about being in the Hurt Syndicate, and MJF is very shocked but excited, saying he can't believe that he hurts people now. All that's left is his lawyer, Mark Sterling, to look over the contract. And hang on a second there, Max. MVP jumps in and questions him, saying, what do we need lawyers for? So Max calls over Sterling to meet MVP, who does not return Sterling's handshake. So MVP tells Smart Mark to take a lap, and he's like, goes to MVP, asks what's wrong. And MVP's a little miffed that Max is involving a lawyer. But MJF counters that this is business, and MVP himself would never sign something without a lawyer looking over it. MVP is kind of reluctantly forced to agree and tells Max to forget it, putting his arm over MJF's shoulder as they walk off. So what this kind of leads me to believe is there was going to be some sort of clause in the contract that would allow the Hurt Syndicate to get MJF out whenever they want, and probably in order to bring in Cedric. Or should Cedric return, then MJF immediately is kicked out, something like that. And now Smart Mark is being involved and stuff like that. And yeah, Maria's saying there's already friction and something is coming down the pipeline at some point. not Swerve, capital Swerve, but Swerve, lowercase Swerve. So I do think something is going to happen, and I imagine it does lead to I almost said the return. It was the return to the Syndicate, but the debut in AEW of Cedric Alexander at some point. But I want to see MJF in the Hurt Syndicate proper for a little while before that happens, I think. We had that introduction of Hurt Syndicate's lawyer last week. And obviously, MVP said nothing happens, or not nothing happens, but MVP said they always follow his advice. So we'll see what happens there. A lot of lawyers getting involved. Clearly, something is coming down the pipeline with that. I think personally, I would have liked Bobby telling MJF he would give him the thumbs up if he put the Dynamite Diamond ring on it. That would be interesting. And I know James last week was talking about how he would very much like to see whether it's Bobby or Shelton, probably Bobby, win the Dynamite Diamond ring and have him be the first time, have him be the person to beat MJF for the first time for the Dynamite Diamond ring, because it would look great with the Hurt Syndicate. Every time Bobby wrestles, you have MVP wearing it for him. If you really want to turn him heel, turn them heel, which I think you don't have to do. They're perfect right now. You could have MVP hitting people in the skull with the ring, but he's the only other option I want to see with it. Keep it on Max forever for all I care. But Bobby having the Dynamite Diamond ring would be really good, especially post MJF Hurt Syndicate breakup. I think that would be a very smart thing to do. Heading back up a little bit, let's head to that women's match. It was a 4-way eliminator match for the AEW Women's World Championship. All right, so again, this was much like last week. 4 women, including Timeless Toni Storm, in the match. If anybody gets pinned, or if anybody gets a win, anybody but Toni gets a win. There we go. They get a shot at Toni's championship. If Toni gets the win, all 4 women go to the back of the line. This was Timeless Toni Storm versus Zumi versus Mina Shirakawa versus Skye Blue. And to get a little background on everybody here, Zumi just won the New Japan Strong Women's Championship in a multi-woman match last week, and she pinned Shirakawa. And not only does that come into factor in this match, but also Mercedes Moné has now lost one of her 4 championship belts and one of her 3 championships. So Mercedes no longer the New Japan Strong Women's Champion. It is now Azumi. Mina Shirakawa has recently become All Elite. This is her first match since officially joining the AEW roster. And she also has a new song, and it's good, but it's not her Stardom one that sounded like Danza Kuduro. That was a much better track. But Mina switching it up a bit, still has a great dance, still a great wrestler. We're all good there. And Skye Blue was making her return to action after missing 10 months after having to heal up a pretty bad broken leg. And happy for her that she was able to do so in her hometown of Chicago. Maria very upset that Mina stole from her CEO. I was wondering when and where Mercedes was going to start losing titles. And honestly, if New Japan was like, hey, we want to give this title to one of our people, I do think that, having it done where Mercedes wasn't even involved in the decision is a very smart way to do it. And, AEW in the same turn, throwing a little bit of a bone by allowing their newly signed roster member, Mina, to be pinned in order for that to happen. So I think, everyone continuing to do good business there. And Maria saying, welcome back, Skye Blue. It was very good to see her. She had a much different look than she used to. Her hair is a lot longer. She looks good. She had a new arm tattoo. But it was very nice to see her back. And she's only going to add to the depth of a very deep women's division. Jumping towards the end of this match here, after Skye attempted a code blue on Mina, which turns into more of a roll-up. All shouts to Skye and respect. You could tell it's a little bit of ring rust on her. I'm not blaming her. Like I said, she missed 10 months after breaking the hell out of her leg. So you could see a little bit of ring rust, but not necessarily her fault. And I think it just, sometimes it's a very intricate setup to hit the code blue the way she does it. Not everybody knows how to take it perfectly, so not necessarily her fault. Excuse me. Anyway, after the roll-up on Mina, Skye is forced to abandon her pinfall attempt as Azumi came off the top rope with a stomp. Azumi missed, and then Skye went for a code blue onto her, but AZM countered and then hit a destroyer of her own, but Toni broke up that pinfall, and that basically took blue out of the match. Toni then hit a suplex on Azumi and followed that up with a Storm Zero, but Mina came in and broke up that pinfall, sending Azumi to the outside and basically taking her out of the match. Toni then tried to hit a Storm Zero onto Mina, but Mina was able to counter, so Toni again counters and goes for the big package. However, Mina was able to shift the weight and gets a small package of her own, and she keeps the champ down for 3 and earns a title shot against Timeless Toni Storm. After the match, Toni gets up and she's a bit surprised. However, she shakes Mina hand before pointing at the Tron, where a graphic for Timeless Toni Storm versus Mina Shirakawa for the AEW Women's World Championship at Double or Nothing shows up, much to the excitement of Mina, who begins dancing and doing the belt celebration. Meanwhile, Azumi is being helped to the back after taking a Storm Zero. And after we see the graphic and Mina's celebration, we cut to that, and Azumi is attacked by Mercedes on the ramp. And after she knocks Azumi down, Monet puts her into the statement maker. However, Jamie Hayter came out for the save, putting Monet into a statement maker of her own before getting Mercedes up and going for a Haterade. However, once again, she is unable to hit it for now the 3rd week in a row, as security spilled out of the tunnel and was able to prevent Hayter from hitting it, pulling Jamie away, despite Jamie's best efforts to get free of them. So for me personally, this might have been the best match tonight. I think this or the opening match, but you throw 2 Joshis and a girl from Stardom into a ring, you're going to have a good match. And Skye, like I said, a little bit of ring rust. I'm not faulting her on that. But if you're going to come back and get back in the swing of things, having these 3 women in there with you is a great way to do it. Because even if you are very perceptive at like the little slip-ups and stuff in wrestling, and with any small mistake Skye made just trying to get, her feet wet again, these 3 women helped cover it super easy. You could barely tell Skye hadn't been in a ring in 10 months. I loved this match. The women, there was great spots all around. I liked everyone taking everyone out on the outside, heading into the commercial break. I liked the fight we were having when we got back. I liked Toni and Mina's interactions, where they're like, hey, I know you. We were, kind of a thing or whatever. And then Mina just slapped the shit out of her. So, yeah, just really, it's just a great TV match. And I do think eventually at some point, obviously, as Toni was continuing to have all these limited matches, someone had to get a win at some point. Now, as Maria said, I was very surprised that Toni ate the pin. I was pretty surprised as well. But I was doing the math as I was watching the match, and I was like, okay, who can take the pinfall here? You don't want to have Azumi eat the pin. She just won the New Japan Strong title, so that's not happening. Mina is having her first match as a member of the AEW roster. That's not happening. Skye Blue is having her first match in 10 months in her hometown. Do you really want to do that? That seems like a very WWE move. Or you actually have Toni lose, and then she has to face the winner at Double or Nothing. And surprisingly, that was, I think, the most logical answer. And having it be Mina, you get a really good rematch out of it. You have Mina win her first match as a member of the AEW roster and pin the champion. So she, even though we all know Mina, immediately comes out of the gate looking really strong. I think it's a great move. And I'm really excited to see Toni versus Mina too. So I'm very much here for this. I really liked it. I think it did great. Let's see. Fernando is saying she did great for the time off she had to take, referring to Skye Blue. I 100% agree. And I also agree with saying this is where Dark is missed. Give her some warm-ups and shake off the rust against some jobbers. And I agree with that 100%. Hell, I might have even, did a little, gave her some stuff on Ring of Honor too. I don't know if she's been down there or not. Again, James would know better. But, I think, her making her re-debut here in AEW following her injury in her hometown was a big deal for her. And I think she's been healthy for a little bit. And so I think, excuse me, you do the show by yourself, you're talking for an hour straight, no breaks. It's tough. But I think they had been saving Skye to make the return here in Chicago. She got a huge pop when she came out. She's very, very popular there. So congratulations, sir. I'm very glad she's back. Again, she was missed from the women's division. She really was. And she's going to be able to step in and help provide even more depth, as I mentioned, to an even deeper women's division. Noah asking a very good question. Where is Miss Mariah May? Well, for those of you who hadn't seen the reports, there were quite a few that a lot of people backstage in AEW think that she's going to go to WWE when her contract expires, I believe, in a few months. This was also about a month ago, so it's probably even less time now. But there were also reports that AEW was very keen on re-signing her. So it's tough. Now, you could do something very obvious. You have Toni versus Mina at Double or Nothing. I wonder who has a lot of history with both of them. And you could do something there. Now, I don't know if you want to get Mariah mixed up with Toni again, because that ended perfectly. And while I am totally here for them to just fight each other forever, Rock Stone Cold style, or, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn style, I don't want to do it again this quickly. Now, Mariah has tweeted out some stuff recently about, waiting for Mina to come over. And now Mina is officially here. So we'll see, if they interact at all. Or maybe Mariah, stays heel and continues her feud with Mina, even though, that kind of ended during Mariah's championship reign. Although, it was only one match. So you never know. There's a lot you could play off that. But Tony Khan, as we've seen before, doesn't really like to put people on TV he thinks are going to leave, because he doesn't want to help build them up before they go to another company. We saw it with Ray Phoenix. We saw it with Penta. We saw it with Ricky Starks. We saw it with Ethan Page. Like, it's something that, it's something that he does, like it or not. And I really, truly hope that Tony Khan is able to find a way to reach a deal with Mariah, because I love her in AEW. I really don't want to see her go to WWE. Even though Trips is doing better booking that women's division lately, he doesn't do great with it. And I know it's reportedly it's a dream of Mariah's to go to WWE and be, have a match at WrestleMania, but I think she would be so much more respected on the card in AEW than she would in WWE. That's a personal opinion. She's 25 and she already has a title reign, and it was a good one at that. And she was involved in arguably the best feud of the year and arguably the best match of the year, or one of the best matches of the year already. People still saying that the end match should have main evented that pay-per-view. You're not going to get that in WWE. And so, like I said, I want her to stay. It is a personal thing. It is a selfish reason. But if she really wants to go to WWE, I can't fault her for that, even though I might be a little upset. All right. after this, I should probably write this down. I'm not going to do this very well, but after this match, AEW gave a quick tribute for Sabu, who unfortunately passed this last week, and they had Taz say some very nice words, and he got a little choked up at the end. I'm not going to do a great job of eulogizing him here. Hopefully, James can come on in the next couple of days and say something. Just because I never really watched Sabu. It's obviously a blind spot in my wrestling watching, but I've always seen how much people have loved him, both in the industry and as fans, and how much he was respected by all of those people. And obviously, it was a terrible loss. And we here at the Market Down podcast wish his family the best and his friends as well. Maria is saying that Sabu was one of her favorite wrestlers ever, and you continue to hear that as people continue to pay tribute to him this past week and such, because he invented so many things in wrestling that even I probably don't even realize he invented in terms of moves and stuff. And reading those Observer Rewinds on Spur Circle, shout out to Price, you can see how much Sabu would bust his ass to not just make towns, but make towns and have unbelievable matches in those towns and like destroy his body, get up and like fly across the world and go have another crazy match in Japan the next day. The guy was always busting his ass. He was always putting on great matches and just giving up his body for us. So shout out to him. He's going to be sorely missed. And to add a few more comments here, it's saying the dude went all out in matches. And Fernando saying he watched ECW mainly because of Sabu. The only good Sabu story I got is I think he tells it. It was when one of the times early on when ECW used to invade Monday Night Raw, when Raw was still in the Manhattan Center. And he was jumping off of, like, I think it was like the A or the W in Raw. And there was the ladder behind it that he was jumping off of. And he was like, is somebody going to hold it? And they're like, yeah, sure. Like, somebody will be there, whatever. And no one came. And he jumped. And the ladder gave us, he jumped. And he barely made the flip onto whomever he was jumping on. And he was really pissed. So, I'm sure there are plenty of great stories coming out about Sabu. And you can continue to find them. As Fernando says, Sabu is the original wrestler to put people through tables. Everyone else copied him. Yeah, he was one of the originators. He really, truly was. All right. Just to finish things up here, the final segment we have to talk about was a in-ring thing with Nigel McGuinness and Daniel Garcia and Tony Schiavone, who was not on commentary tonight. We had Ian Riccaboni. Shouts to Ian. But Schiavone was in the ring with Nigel, and Tony referred to what happened at the end of Collision last week, where FTR goaded Nigel into getting in the ring and leave the commentary desk, interrupting Daniel Garcia's match with Dax, causing a disqualification. And then Nigel and Danny were forced to fend off Cash and Dax. So after going all this and showing the tape, Nigel has Garcia comes out and apologizes to him for costing him the match again via the DQ and the winner's purse, saying he let his ego get in the way and should not have gotten out from behind the desk, as that is breaking a cardinal rule. And he realizes that his spot is next to Tony Schiavone. Garcia tells Nigel to keep his apology, as he did exactly what he was supposed to do when FTR went after him and put his hands on him. Garcia says that he's going to fight FTR either way, as they almost ended his career. So Nigel should join him and help him take them down. Big Stoke, as he is now being referred to, then interrupts and comes out to speak on FTR's behalf, saying they're not there, and calls Nigel's actions reprehensible and egregious, saying that he almost broke Dax's jaw, and I think he said separated Cash's shoulder or something like that. And again, Nigel, what the hell is your problem? I guess that's going to be his thing now. Nigel says his problem is that someone put his hands on him, and he responded. But Stokely, and then he kind of half-heartedly apologized, but Stokely does not accept the apology, saying he and FTR conferred and they think that Nigel's punishment should be getting in the ring with FTR, where they can injure Nigel and Garcia the way they want to without fear of suspensions or fines, since it will be a sanctioned match. Nigel says, and then he kind of apologizes to Garcia since they haven't had an opportunity to talk, saying that he doesn't want to step in the ring, especially with the 10-time World Tag Team Champions, as he thinks they would probably kill him, and then because it would end up in a 2-on-1, most likely kill Garcia. So Stokes jumps in and, Garcia says, yeah, FTR might kill them, but he's watched Nigel overcome the odds for his entire life, so why not do it one more time? Stokely then gets in and says Nigel actually doesn't have to wrestle. He actually kind of feels bad, as he is right that FTR would actually kill him and Garcia. So Nigel should go back to commentary and continue to be the Al Bundy of AEW, which is just a great line, because there is no way he beat FTR, as he had barely beaten Hepatitis. This ticks Nigel off, and he starts to step to Stokely, and Garcia realizes what's going on, so he starts taking off his jacket. But as they're doing so, they're attacked from behind by FTR, who we guess were in the building. FTR quickly hit a shatter machine onto Garcia, and went after Nigel, was able to fend them off briefly before Dax just knocked him on his ass with a right hand. FTR then started to set up for the spike pile driver on Nigel, but Daddy Magic came down with a crowbar and was able to chase FTR and Stokely off. So it is obviously just leading to the FTR versus Nigel and Danny Garcia match, probably a double or nothing. A lot of this has happened on Collision, and so I've seen some of it. I've missed some of it. Again, doing my best to watch Collision lately. I got to catch up on last week's, but I guess I'm excited for this. I don't really know. We were talking about the tag team division earlier, and you obviously at the moment kind of want to keep FTR away from the tag titles as you let the Hurt Syndicate's reign continue to build. And you got to do it somehow, and I guess they're doing it with this. And going after somebody like Nigel McGuinness after a massive heel turn by FTR is a good way to continue for them to continue to get heat and build out these heel characters who are a lot more vicious, I feel like, than they used to be when they were heels. Although, back in the Pinnacle, they took out quite a few dudes with the spike pile driver, and including, I think they even took out Tully, who was their manager at one point. So it's, like I said, it's kind of just something for them to do and continue to get heat. And I think eventually they'll make their way back around to the tag titles. But for now, it is what it is. And it'll just be cool to see Nigel get back in the ring again. Anytime we get to see that is awesome. And I'm excited to see him do it. Hitting the last comment here before we close things out. Copeland is returning during the match. Yeah, maybe. Actually, probably. Because then, you could probably, do Copeland and Garcia versus FTR. You can maybe even do Copeland, Garcia, and Nigel versus FTR and Stokely and force Stokely into a match again, because that's always funny. But, yeah, it's going to be tough because everyone keeps thinking, the person that, Copeland's going to team up with to take out FTR is going to be Christian. And it's just like, are we sure about that? Like, it's going to be so difficult to turn Christian face, especially what he's doing lately with Nick Wayne and being an asshole with the title. Although Wayne's gone for the next month or so, doing Best of Super Juniors. But I think it's going to take a lot. It's going to take a lot of work to get them back together, and I don't think Copeland and Christian are going to team up until Copeland's just like, all right, this is my final few months. Let's make the big run at the end, and then we can get out of here. But we'll see. It's saying then, I believe he means Daniel Bryan. Another thing, I don't know what's up with Bryan. If you've been seeing what he's saying, he seems very comfortable in the way his career has ended. And he's just like, yeah, I'm kind of chilling. I don't really feel like I need to get in the ring right now. Now, notorious liar, Bryan Danielson, at least when it comes to, work stuff. You can't really trust the word he says. He's admitted, he's just like, I love lying. Cody Rhodes taught me how to lie, and I absolutely love doing it. And you never really know with Bryan. So I think if he does come back, it'll be for a big time match at All In, and we'll see what that big time match might be if they want to set anything up. I don't. They could do a tag match, forcing him to team with Nigel would be kind of funny, but I think if Bryan's going to come back, it's got to be something huge. I feel like it would probably end up being single stuff. You know, if they really want to do the one more, Okada Kenny, not Okada Kenny, excuse me, Bryan Kenny match, but I think we're lining up for Okada Kenny at All In, so that's out for that one. It's got to be someone huge for Bryan, and off the top of my head, I don't know who that would be. So I don't know what he's going to do. We'll see. We shall see. But yeah, after this was the main event, so that was Dynamite. I thought this was a good show. It being branded for Beach Break, I was thinking maybe I was expecting a little bit more, but I don't want to complain too much because it was a good episode. It was a really good episode of Dynamite as we get closer to Double or Nothing. And we always say the Dynamite that's 2 weeks out from the pay-per-view is usually better than the one that's right before it, the go-home one. So this ended up being a really good show. Love the opening match. Love the women's four-way match. Again, gotta love those Joshis, man. They are so friggin' good. Love the women's four-way match. And while I didn't love the main event, it just felt like a regular match with a cage around it. The cage did end up blending itself to the finish and to the chaos of the end of it. And we got a challenge for Anarchy in the arena at Double or Nothing out of that. So I'm willing to accept the fact that it was a meh match because what's going to be truly memorable out of it was what happened after. And MJF jumping into Bobby Lashley's arms. I need that GIF ASAP because I feel like I could use it all the time. So good episode of Dynamite. It's saying you could do Brian Ospreay again. I think Will's going to be challenging Moxley at All In. And frankly, the last Brian Ospreay, I don't think they ever need to run that back. It was so good. Perfect match. That standoff at the end where it was the Busaiku knee versus the Hidden Blade, and then the Hidden Blade winning, and then that going into the Tiger Driver. Just, it was unbelievable. Don't touch it. Don't do it again. Leave it alone. It was too good. It was just too good to do it again. I agree with you. I'd love to see it again, but no. Don't ruin it. Just leave it be. Go and seriously, if you guys have not watched that match since it happened, go back and watch Bryan versus Ospreay. It is that good. It is definitely worth it. But as for tonight, like I said, good episode of Dynamite. I'm really excited for Double or Nothing, especially now with the addition of Anarchy in the arena. I'm really excited to see what those teams are going to be, as I mentioned at the top of the show, considering all of the different possibilities and combinations. And hopefully they include the women on the teams. Please include the women on the team, Team Tony Khan. It would be so cool to have Willow and Marina actually be official members instead of just interfering or joining the fray or whatever you want to call it. Let them actually be pinned or submitted and take bumps and shit. So yeah, that would be cool. And I'm excited to see what goes on with the contract signing with MJF next week. And just, and Gabe Kidd storyline. There's a lot of cool stuff that helped build towards not just Double or Nothing, but I think beyond as well. So good episode tonight. Everything's clicking. The wrestling's clicking. The storylines are clicking. If you're not hyped for Ospreay versus Hangman at Double or Nothing, you need to get your pulse checked. Just a whole lot of good stuff going in AEW right now. It is probably the best time, I think, maybe since the beginning of the show. Maybe, I guess you could argue maybe like the pandemic because, I still think they had a lot of good stuff there. And right after, I think one of the best times to be a fan of AEW. So it continues to be great. Damn it, it's sneaking Bryan versus Spike Dudley in. Why not? All right, on that note, I would like to thank everyone so much for watching me here at the Market Down Podcast. I would appreciate it if you like to subscribe. If you do like it, lets us know as a channel that you're enjoying what we're doing, and we continue to do it. And if you subscribe, continue to get all the good stuff here on the pod. Hopefully James is back tomorrow with the Gym Pack Zone for you Impact fans. Obviously, that's been a pretty hot product lately, especially since WrestleMania with Joe Hendry and all that stuff. So be sure to check him out. After that, I will be back here next Wednesday for the next episode of Dynamite, and then we will be covering Double or Nothing. I hope that is Memorial Day weekend. I'll let you guys know more next week how that's going to go. I swear I might just cover it on one day. I'm off if I don't get a chance. I do want to cover it. It looks like such a good card. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to watch it. Like, it depends on what I end up doing Memorial Day weekend, but we'll get to that when we get to that. We also do our best to cover WWE shows as well, whether, if something big happens on Raw or SmackDown, maybe we'll hop on, or NXT for that matter, maybe. But we do the pay-per-views, so be sure to subscribe for all that stuff. If you want to check us out on social media, you're here on YouTube. You can check the links in the description below: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky. All of that is down there. If you're watching us over on Twitter or Facebook and you want to follow us in a couple other places, Twitter is at @marketdown_pod. Instagram is at marketdownpod. YouTube.com/marketdown3665. You can check us out marketdownpod.bsky.social over on Blue Sky, or just search Marketdown Podcast on any of your platforms there, and we'll pop up. It's pretty obvious. Just find the belt and you'll see us there. You know what? Thank you. Appreciate you guys being here. Maria, Fernando as well. Appreciate you guys always checking in. And thanks for helping me out this evening as I was riding solo. So my name is Nick Cummings. Thank you so much for watching us here at the Market Down Podcast. Have a good one, everyone.